Test audio. All right. And there we go. Hopefully there's some sound pickup. Let's see if we can do this in a couple of tries. Probably not. Don't look at my build. I'm a pleb. It's okay. So if you run on the right side, his tail can sometimes clip you. Typically, this bush is where people stand to bait him out position-wise for his feet. And then that attack is the one that you're looking for, where he goes straight on. Technically, you can also do it with, or not. Nice. Hi. Good little boy, yes you are. Yes you are. Nice. See, if you're too close to this wall, he will do that. Nice. I was adjusting my headset volume. Alright. Doot doot doot. So you can stand here, and that'll get him to do that, but you won't have plenty of room. So you need to be careful. And if you're before this, in front of this... okay. Alright, yeah. Okay, calm down. Alright. If you're on this side of the bushes, he will bite. And sometimes even just on it. See? I guess here. Stop! Alright. If he does this, I don't know if it's purely RNG. I think you might be able to bait out that attack, but maybe not. Okay. Well, either way. Initially, you move him over here with these bushes. And that will set him up feet-wise to be where he is. That shouldn't have worked, but okay. Nope, I don't want that. Do not give it to me. Okay, so I'm gonna stand in front of the gate and talk about it really quick. Do I need to download some video editing software? I might just have to so I can do some pointers. But basically, okay. Go into the fight. If you're trying not to get hit, you want to make sure that you go on the inside of his left foot, right? Not the outside of the left foot, because sometimes he'll do a steppy stomp. Sometimes he'll do the tail whip. But you want to get to this. You don't always have to go this far down, but it's my preference to go to this bush. Then you move over here, so he does the fire breath close to the ledge. And there you have it. So that is the head-on attack. You want it to be close to the... If you're looking up towards him, you want it to be close to the left side, your left. It's right. Close to the wall, but not too close to the wall, because if you're too close to the wall, then you can't actually run up. His neck will... Collision box will pin you to the wall, and you won't be able to get to the level required. Now, we're going to try to do the side swipe one. Steppy stomp. How's it going? Alright, so once again, we're going to go to this bush. You might be able to go further down. Some people go all the way to the wall. I don't see the point. You want him to be centered in the block. Up, no. There we go. If you saw that there was maybe two, maybe three blocks worth, right, of distance between his head should have been here, and there's running space here. Figure out that it teleports. Thankfully, we have the bonfire, so I don't have to worry about it too much. Excuse me, sir. So I'm just gonna go back and I'm gonna walk through some of the locations. The key points for you to stand and the key points that you're looking for him to be, or it to be. I can't assume it's gender, right? So I've seen no-hit runners run to the left around here. It's not necessary, as long as you don't aggro those guys back there. These guys up here won't aggro to you. The only time you have someone following you is if you aggro those guys down there. Obviously I do quitouts because I'm a runner boy. I'm a speedy boy, not a challenge boy. So, like I said, don't go to its left on the outside of its foot. You want to go on the inside of its foot. Listen for the swipey swipes or the stompy stomps, and you just want to go past the middle point, but anywhere between the middle point and the right doesn't matter because you want. Let's see. You want his torso to be where my head is and where that building is. So you want to line up the center of his hitbox with that building. You don't want to be too far to either side because the proximity of the head hitbox won't be low enough for you to get up here and do the jumping R2. So, if you go too far down, you won't have enough time to sprint and then do it. His animation, the hitbox that is his head, right? That is the insta kill, will be already starting to lift by the time you're even here. And so when you try to jump, you'll just clip his neck and it'll be useless. And you once again run the risk of getting hit. The more time you're in this fight, the longer you have a chance of getting hit, and that's no bueno. So you are somewhere between, preferably this bush and this bush, between the center and the wall. It's up to you, your preference, but I like to initially set him up in this area. Once his body's set up, maybe I'll give an attack or two by standing over here. If he does the linear attack as opposed to the sweeping attack for the fire breath, then I'll just stand here and just kind of hang out, let him do his breath thingy if I'm not ready. But if I am ready, the second he starts his animation, you want to sprint up, running R2. Like you saw, here is where you press the R2. There's maybe two, maybe three steps where you're on that, and you don't even have to jump. You don't have to do anything. You just hold B, sprint, jump off the edge, and ta-da. You'll just walk off the edge and be able to do the leaping R2. Now, how I've seen it done, for setting up the linear attack, you stand just slightly left of center so that it does that little steppy shift to where it's looking, instead of directly down, it looks a little bit to the side. So its head position is closer to here. The center of its neck, the line hitbox, I guess, is this direction, which is, again, 2 or 3 stepping stones away, so that when he does go linear, you have a decent amount up to here of running space to go up along the neck and running R2. If you're too close, it'll prevent you from you'll usually get pinned here and you'll have some weird animations, and then your camera might flip and it'll be disorienting. And again, if you are this point or closer, he will do the swipe bite. Now, I think I've seen it as close as this block for the swipe, but if you're standing here, you could just backstep in it, no big deal. Or roll if you're into that. You gotta have that really close call for those clickbaits, right? But when he's doing the head in the center, looking straight down, he's not shifted over a little bit, but he is looking straight down. If you're too far to the center, he will do the swipe animation. Now, I think that might be the case. I might be wrong. It might just be RNG where most of the time he's going to do a linear attack, but sometimes he does a swiping fire breath. I'm not entirely sure, but I do know that as long as I stay over here, typically he does the linear fire breath, and that's easy to avoid. It's got a fairly narrow hitbox, but I'll explain the dangers of missing and falling down here later. If you fall down, just quit out. Just quit out. Don't even bother trying to run, because his fire breath will encompass the entirety of the bottom. Regardless of his head position, it will just kill you. So, you might as well not risk it. It's a cone, right? So the closer you are to its head, the less likely, the bigger the dead zone for his attack. So you just want to be closer to his head, not further away. So if you fall down, which happens a lot, typically you'll fall down and not fall off the edge, but sometimes you might, because his head hitbox might knock you off. Oh hey, failed to render that, or not render, but bad programming, I guess. Anyway, his head might knock you while you're here off to the ledge, and that sucks, but it is what it is. But for the most part, if you have his position with the head here, you'll have more than enough room to do the dirty deed, the cheese. So, again, going back, if he's doing the swipe, his head starts here and goes along this arc to here, the hitbox for you to attack. So, when his head starts to do the animation this direction, you still want to sprint, but start sprinting when his right end of the jaw is now exiting and moving this way. So you don't want to do it immediately as soon as he starts the animation, because if you do that, you'll be doing it too soon. But if you do it too late, obviously his head can still hit you off the ledge, and that's also no bueno. But if you do it at the right time, you'll still be able to have his head right around here. And this is the sweet spot for his head to be. It's just low enough to where when you leap off, not like that because I'm an idiot, but sprinting, when you leap off, yep. Right, so where my head is currently is where his hitbox needs to be at or below. So, towards the middle, I would say middle, like 3/4 of the way through his animation is when you'll be up here and doing this. Typically, you can be a little bit early, but late, I have bad luck with it. So if you find that you reacted too slow to the linear fire breath, it's better to just wait and try to bait out the next one. I also find that if you do the bait out the sideswipe melee attack, the bite, it'll reset the linear attack much better than if you were to just wait here. Typically, if I wait here after he's done the linear attack, he'll move over to either the where he flies up and breathes down, or he'll do the sweeping fire breath attack. And if you're not practiced at rolling through it, it kind of sucks. So if you're not prepared for the sweeping fire breath and rolling through the animation with your iframes, probably want to bait out the melee attack instead of the fire breathing attack by just standing here, doing your thing. For the most part, 90% of the time, if you stand here, you'll get it. But if he does the fire breath, you can start seeing his jaw, or just like half a second or a quarter of a second after he starts breathing fire, you will run from the center or just left of the center, your left. And by the time you're here and jumping animation attack, preferably not at that angle, There. His head will be either here or here, and his head animation hitbox, whatever the hell it is lower than this line, this elevation here. So I will do some save files to see if I can get the head swipe attack animation, and that'll be 2 of 4 of the different attacks that you can do. I personally suck balls at this one. Like I'm really bad at it, but technically you can do this. Same thing, his head animations below the elevation where you start your animation for the R2 attack. And so when you leap, and if you're lucky, I am bad at timing it, but that it was the way to do it before they found this ledge over here. So this was the speedrunner tactic, to leap starting from the bell, wait for it to do the sweeping fire breath attack, and then as its head, so the animation starts with its head kind of over here. By the time its head gets here, you want to start sprinting from roughly around here. My visual is just the bush, always the bush. Bush catches my attention. And then preferably you R2 before you start stepping down, but again, this is not my preferred method, so I don't have a lot of practice on it. So, like I said, a quarter of a second, or when his head is about here, you want to sprint, jump off, kill him. Now, technically, hey, how's it going, buddy? You're a bitch, so I'm going to kill you. Technically, you can do the linear fire breath attack, but you have to do a little bit more setup for that, buddy. Oh, I have corrupted files. Nice! That's cool. Buddy. Well, I guess it's time to reinstall Dark Souls 3. Woohoo. Okay, so anyway. Technically you can do the linear breath attack, however, I've had 0 success with it, and I've done it maybe 50 times. So what you'd have to do for that is you'd have to, his body's, the center of his body's here, with his left foot being over here-ish, his right foot being over here-ish, right? So the center of his body, his sphincter, as it were, would be about here. So when you run through his legs up to here, either he'll do the fly up and breathe down, and you'll be safe up here, but it's whatever. But he'll land in the same spot that he started, and so his the center of his head will be in line with the box, right? So because it's a arc animation, the center of his body is going to be the center of the arc, right, or the apex of the arc, and that's why you're able to do this attack. But like I said, technically you could do the linear breath attack. To me, it's a little risky because you have to do it as he's doing the animation, just before the fire hits, where, like, you're talking about 2 to 3, maybe 4 frames at most, where you're able to do the fire breath, or between the beginning of the animation where his head is just low enough to where you can do the attack and successfully achieve the insta-kill, and getting hit by fire. So you have a very small window for the linear breath attack of getting not getting hit, so it's very risky for no hits, and risky for speedrunners because that is a run killer if you're counting on 2 to 3 frames. Whereas if he's doing the side swipe, I would say that you have maybe 4 to 6 frames, so about the distance of a light roll, right? Or I guess it'd be a medium roll is 6 frames, right? So it's a little bit better, a little more cozy. Whereas if you're doing the one down here, in my experience, again, bait hit so that his center of his body is in the middle of the pathway by standing over here. Because if you just stand over here initially, hit the center of his body will still be right about here. So the line would be this way, and his head animation would still, his neck animation would still be preventing you from being able to run up here, which sucks. So again, bait it over here, past the center line. Doesn't really matter how far you go, just make sure you're not too far, because once he starts the linear attack animation, you want to move over here, or sorry, the linear fire breath animation, move over here, get all cozy, nice and ready. Sometimes if you feel extra cozy, you can stand in the middle again, so he does the linear fire breath, and you have a little bit more space. But if you stand too far to the middle, he'll be too far away from this ledge, so when you leap off, you won't have the angle appropriate. That was bad anyway. You won't have the appropriate angle to get his head insta-kill hitbox. So I hope that makes sense. I guess I could tell a little bit about... So when you're up here, you have just that little tiny space where you can just walk up onto it, right? That little elevation gap. Bad programming, once again. Visual programming, I guess. So what Distortion 2 described it as is that you run to the edge of this 2 steps and then run off. But since it's hard, when you see this massive dragon breathing fire and you're like, oh my god, I'm scared, it's a nice visual, but it's also kind of sketch sometimes. So I honestly just wing it. It's bad. It's not good, but wow, that's a yikes. But anyway, you do have to be far enough along to where you have that elevation gain, so that when your animation starts about here, that's when... Sorry, that's confusing. So when you're sprinting, you jump here, but the animation attack doesn't start until you're about here, or perpendicular to here. And since the animation of the head needs to be here or lower, your animation starts here and ends over here, right? So that gap is enough to clear the distance so that his head is here to here, right? With the elevation being the top of this barricade, crumbled barricade. And that'll give you the elevation of, I guess, 2 stones to be on his head, which is, I would say, I don't know, easily 7, maybe 8 frames, where you are able to successfully implement the sprint and attack. So you have 1 or 2 frames after the animation starts to be like, oh crap, I gotta go, 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 and ta-da. I don't know. I don't have a perfect rule of thumb, and I don't have timers or anything like that, so I can't tell you the exact amount of time, but I do know that typically, if he's doing the linear breath attack close enough to the wall, and you don't derp, you can get it, I would say, 90% of the time. But, like I said, if you're too far center, he'll be too far away from the wall, and you won't be able to make the distance, because you'll land here, and you'll just do a little bit of R2 damage on his neck, and that obviously is like practically nothing, probably less than 1% of his hit bar. But I guess if you fall, oh no, just quit out, right? Or I guess you can't quit out, just bone out, because by the time you're here, he's already restarting his next animation attack. You're like, okay, that's not so bad. Maybe I'll have a window. Oh yeah, maybe I can do this, and he fire breaths you here, and you die. I've never successfully recovered by running around. I've only been able to recover by starting over again by boning out. Now, if you're no-hitting, I'm assuming that's different because you're already dodging those fireballs and you have to start from the beginning of the map as opposed to the bonfire, and that sucks, but it's up to you. Obviously, as a speedrunner, you just quit out or start over, because if you fail this very easy cheese skip, probably not the run. Let's see, is there anything else? I don't think so. So, that should be the tutorial. Hope that was helpful. That was a lot of talking. 25 minutes of talking. But yeah, I hope that helps. I will be done now. So enjoy whatever type of run you're doing, challenge run, speed run. Just remember to get good. And when in doubt, start a new run. Thanks for watching.